Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Close Encounters podcast and the last of season 1, but we'll roll in straight to season 2, don't worry about that. What a busy week it's been, but worth it. As I record this segment, I'm back home in Belfast. Great to be back, though it's a shame about the weather, but that's what you can expect about the weather back home. Coming up in this episode, as per, it is our 4-piece news section with That's What I Call News. And then I will be speaking to Kathy McDaniel. Now, I really love this conversation with Kathy because she spoke about her near-death experience a handful of years ago and how it changed her life. And then she penned her experiences into a book called Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat. Stick around for that. I promise you won't want to miss it. And then finally, it'll be a brief recap on what we spoke about and then what to look forward to in the next episode. But for now, let's see what's caught my eye in our news segment with our section of That's What I Call News. Yes, our news section. I look forward to this each and every time I record it. Anyway, let's start with thesun.co.uk. NASA announces the discovery of 85 new exoplanets. It's no longer real big news that exoplanets have been discovered, but in this instance, the NASA Transitioning Exoplanet Survey Satellite, or TESS for short, has found that 60 of these planets are within their host star's habitable zone. So that means it's the Goldilocks zone, just perfect for life to exist as we know it. In astronomical terms, though, some of the stars aren't really that far away, with some just being 11 light years away, while others could be up to a staggering 2.5 million light years away. While still not confirmation of alien life existing elsewhere in the galaxy, it certainly increases the possibility that we aren't alone in the galaxy. Something worth keeping an eye on, no doubt. Going over to Coast AM, a Thai family reportedly subject to paranormal activity after taking offering from a Buddhist temple. Now, I had to get this from a mirrored source, which was Coast AM, I suppose, due to the original source being too crowded with intrusive adverts, and I hate that and I wouldn't want to subject anyone else to that if I can help it. But it has been reported that a family in Thailand have experienced unsettling paranormal activity after their young son took an offering from a temple. The offering in question, which is said to be an incredible Hulk doll, was the suspected source of the unusual activity in their home, which included a series of ailments, accidents, a string of bad luck, and the boy repeatedly stating that there was a ghost in the house. And to back that up, other family members also reported seeing a terrifying large shadow figure appear at their residence. The father of the child has said that he has since returned the doll, but the article doesn't indicate if this has put a stop to the unusual occurrences. I'd be very interested in finding out more about that. If any of you know more, please do let me know. Moving over to suspicious observers, the Earth got real lucky last week, according to him. While you mightn't have noticed it, the Earth had a very close shave last week, according to Ben Davidson, the founder of Suspicious Observers. In a video posted to his YouTube channel last week, he had shown how a gigantic, rather dense solar flare, the largest recorded yet of this solar cycle, erupted from the sun's southern hemisphere. Now, had the CME hit Earth, it would almost certainly have had a catastrophic result, knocking out a majority of Earth's electrical goods, including satellites and power supplies, enough to knock us back to the Stone Age, technological-wise. Speaking about it to you just doesn't do it justice, and I'd recommend watching the video for yourselves. You might then just get a sense of how lucky we were. You can, of course, find it on his YouTube page, which will be listed below in the show notes, as with all links, or find it on our Facebook page by searching for Now UFOs. And just as I started to sit down and record this, it seems that another big solar flare has been launched from the sun, and we might just get another glancing blow. How many strokes of good luck and good fortune will the Earth have before we finally get the brunt of it? I don't know, but according to Ben, it isn't that long. And finally, China throws its hat into the ring to intensify its search for ET life. This is coming from MSN.com. Chinese astronomers have announced that they are drawing up plans for Beijing to make contact with extraterrestrials. In much the same way as SETI, the Chinese plans include the use of radio technology to search for artificial radio transmissions and how to respond should they detect alien intelligent communication. So while the use of radio telescopes to detect life isn't new, both SETI and China's Far Neighbor project have yet to detect anything of note, really, unless you count the WOW signal from ages ago. But it's thought that now that China are laying the foundations for the new plans, it may accelerate the progress of SETI's studies, increasing their targets and refining the sensitivity of their equipment. Who do you think will find something first? It could be exciting times ahead in this chapter of the space race. But anyway, that concludes the news, and here comes the interview segment. So on this episode we have Kathy McDaniel. Now, she is a near-death experiencer and author of the Amazon #1 bestseller, Misfit and Hell to Heaven Expat. The book is a memoir of her life prior, during, and in the wake of her near-death experience. And I have her talking to me this episode from Washington State in the United States. And Kathy, how do you do?
I am fine and very happy to be here, Chris. Thanks.
No, I am happy to have you here as well. Near-death experience, a lot of people have heard of it before, you know, what a near-death experience is, and I suppose out-of-body experiences as well. But in your own understanding of the topic that we'll discuss this evening, is a near-death experience like pretty much what we all believe it to be, or is there more to it than that?
It's a little more complicated than most people really think, particularly one like myself. I was in a coma. So at one point, the doctor had said I wasn't going to make it, and then they needed to say goodbye to me. But never did I have my heart stop or anything like that. So I was curious when I got back from this experience, how many other people had this type of drifting over. You know, your spirit is kind of liquid, and not liquid, but you know what I mean. It can kind of drift. That's how people have out of body experiences.
Yeah.
But it is also considered legal, as it were, to have a near death experience, which I like to remind people is not a near dead experience. People that have their heart stop for 20 minutes, they're dead, man. That's not a near death experience as far as I'm concerned. But so people that are really, really ill and never have their heart stop can have and do have near death experiences. So that's a little lengthy, but there you go.
Well, even so, it makes the point very clear that if you have a near-death experience, what you're saying is you're not dead per se with a heart stopped. You're literally on the doormat of death's door, about to give it a knock and say, "Hey, I'm here," but you haven't quite, went there. I suppose is a way to put it.
Right. Well, it's not a perfect science. People that do have their heart stop, they're near death. They're near permanent death. It's just semantics.
And they're interesting at the same time, because I've heard of so many accounts of near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences, and there's a few variations in between it, but there's a lot of similarities as well, which I'm sure we will discuss a little bit shortly. But in the years prior to your near-death experience, which we will talk about, the hows and whys shortly, but what was your life like prior to it, so we can begin to build a picture of you prior to your near-death experience?
My near-death experience took place when I was about 53. So prior to that, my life, as you and I discussed a little bit earlier, my dad was in the military. And so we moved every 2.5 to 4 years all over the United States. And that was fun, but it was always kind of tough being the new kid. But I got used to that kind of moving around, and so I learned how to get along with people, and that was great. I was also raised in a Roman Catholic family. My dad was a pilot in World War II and was shot down in the Philippines. He had been an atheist up to this point, and when his plane landed in the beach and flipped 3 times and landed upside down and caught fire. He says, God, if you're out there and you save me, me and my family will become Catholics. And as he was getting finished with that prayer, some guys ran out from the jungle and cut him out of the plane and drug him back to the medics. And so we literally became Catholics when he got home. I was pretty young, and my sister was young, and my mom was pregnant with my brother. So it was really kind of a funny story. When they went in after mass, they went up to the priest and they prearranged to have their vows redone, because they wanted to get married in the Catholic Church. And there was 2 older ladies sitting in a pew. And here comes my mom, all 7 months pregnant with 2 little ones, and they're getting married. And one of them said to the other, "Well, it's about time." So my folks had a giggle about that. So I always went to Catholic schools from day one all the way through high school and my year at college, and bought the religion hook, line, and sinker. I really believed that when I died, I would go to purgatory, because I was taught, like many others, that nobody is good enough to go straight to heaven. Maybe Mother Teresa or St. Francis, but most of us are going to have to pay for our sins. And if others out there can remember when we did indulgences, there was actual a terminology for, like, if you said a rosary, you'd get something like 500 days off your time in purgatory, or if you went to an extra mass, or if you all these things were really driven into my mind, my soul, my psyche, that I would go to purgatory no matter how good I was. It just depended on how long I would be there. We were told it was like hell, but you got out. And the one thing you had to remember was you must never despair. That was another one. Despair was the number one sin, unforgivable. Holy Spirit would just take his vengeance. So all of that was in my mind and in my soul and my understanding of the afterlife. And so when I got seriously ill, I'd been taking care of my best friend, and he had leukemia. So we were at a hospital up in Seattle, Washington. And I was there for 8 months taking care of him. And I got so run down after he died. I was heartbroken, and flu was going around, and I got it. And I got really, really sick. And a friend, thank God, I called up and said, "I can't even get to the hospital. I'm so sick. Could you please come get me?" And he did. He came, and by the time I got to the emergency room, I had passed out and there was no pulse. So they took me to a larger hospital and got me going again. And I woke up in the hospital a couple of days later thinking, what the heck is going on? And they said I had what was called lung failure, and they were going to have to put me into a drug-induced coma. They would try and throw the book at me, and there was really not much they had, medically speaking, back then. I was kind of a guinea pig. And they said, we're going to give you this drug that will put you out, and it's called white amnesia. You will not be able to remember a thing. Your brain's going to go offline. It's like going to sleep and not dreaming. Either you're going to wake up if we save you, or you won't, and say goodbye to your folks. So my family had all flown in from all over, and I said goodbye and went out.
I mean, that is, I don't even know what to make of that. It's the fact that you've been told that, pretty much say your Cheerios, that's it, say goodbye just in case, because we're going to put you to sleep and you may not wake up again. And it's like being asleep, but no dreams. I mean, whenever I go to sleep, I quite often have dreams, and a lot of the time I enjoy it. But I would imagine, like whenever that were you aware of anything at that point when you were asleep, when you were in that coma? It wasn't like I'm here, but nothing's existing, or was it literally you weren't aware of anything at that point?
Well, that's where the adventure begins.
So it begins at that point, yeah.
I woke up and I was conscious. And it was totally dark. I could hear no sound. I had no idea where I was or how I got there. And I just thought, this is very strange. I'm afraid to move. I don't know if I'm, sitting or laying down or what. And I didn't want to fall. So I thought, well, I'll just hang out. I just kind of hung out. There's nothing else to do. And then all of a sudden, it started to get a little bit light. And I thought, oh, great, that's going to be helpful. Maybe I can figure out where I am. And as it got lighter, it was really just more of a reddish glow, which I thought was strange. And I thought, well, maybe the sun's coming up. And then I could discern there was like this swirly fog blowing all around. And I thought, boy, this is getting strange. And then it was like somebody turned the temperature up. Something smelled really bad, and I started hearing kind of moaning and shrieking, and I thought, oh, good grief, this can't be good. And then out of this fog came this horrible voice that yelled, do you know where you are? And I thought for a couple seconds, and I thought, I hope I'm wrong, but I figured purgatory. So I said, hell? And that voice just boomed back with this maniacal laugh. And I turned and I ran into the darkness. And that's when the experience started.
That's like rather chilling, where there was just nothingness to begin with, and then it's like the light at the end of the tunnel, but not the light that you want to see.
It's not the light you hope to see,
that you want to
tell
see
you.
coming there. But just
Yeah,
before you mentioned that, you'd spoke about like purgatory. Now, I was brought up Protestant, or Presbyterian, to be specific, and we've never really subscribed to a belief of purgatory. And that's my older days. I'm well open-minded to everything now. From you experienced this, do you still believe in the concept of purgatory? Like, can you confirm that that's there, or is it simply black and white? You've got heaven and hell, and that's it.
Well, it took me, Chris, about 10 years after I got back. Nobody would listen to me. My family didn't want to hear about it. My friends didn't want to hear about it. It was just freaking them out. And so I just kind of kept it to myself. I did a lot of writing. I had kind of a diary, and I kept writing it out, thinking, if I can just get this out of my mind, this has got to be a dream or something, because it's not going away. It was just as real or more real than my everyday existence. And so I couldn't. What happened after that was very lengthy. And in the book, I go into, great detail of what happened and how I got out of there. But it took me 10 years to find this group called IANDS. That's the International Association of Near-Death Studies. And it's got hundreds and thousands of people all over the world who've had near-death experiences and are coming out of the closet. And we have conferences, we have a great website and sharing groups. I now run a sharing group for people that have had the distressing near-death experiences, and we get together once a month. That's been going on. We've had that for, I think, almost 3 years. And it's just that people are ashamed and embarrassed to talk about a disturbing NDE because of the shame and the fear that associated with it. I guess over the years, I've now been with IANDS 14 years. So actually, 24 years ago, right now, I was in a coma in the hospital.
Wow.
So it's like my anniversary. And every year makes me, well, you can hear it, emotional, because it's like it happened yesterday. That's the thing about a near-death experience. It's experienced in your soul, not in your brain. And when that doctor said I couldn't remember anything, he meant my brain. And that's how I'm able it took me a long time. That guy lied to me. Why do I still remember this? But later on, I realized that it wasn't my brain that was experiencing that. So now I'll give the bottom line. I believe I manifested that whole experience because I know now from what happened when I was in heaven that God is all loving and all forgiving, that God would never condemn anybody, but we're very free to condemn ourselves if we feel like it. We've got free will. And so my believing in that distorted uh, story that I was taught from early childhood prompted me to make that up. And believe me, I'm not doing it again. And I also believe, after hanging out with all these people for all these years and hearing their stories, that we all are just part of God. We're part of God's spirit. We start off in heaven, we come down to earth and other universes and other planets because we want to learn things, and not in the sense of learning what the world looks like, or any of that brainy stuff, but to kind of kickstart our energy levels, become a better spirit or a more informed spirit, get your vibration up, all that stuff that people are talking about. I believe it. And I believe I planned my whole life, and I came down here with my soulmates, and we all agreed to have each other's back on these things. And I believe, like you and I said, okay, we're friends in this incarnation down there on earth. We'll get together for about an hour and check in and say hi. And we did. That's what we're doing right now. And that's kind of the direction I'm going now. And I came back to tell people about this. I believe that's something I chose to do. And so when I got back, Chris, and I was laying in that hospital, I'd been just with a nasal tube. And so I'd gone from my hefty 102 pounds down to 86 pounds. I had no muscle mass left, so I couldn't move. I had a ventilator in my throat, so I couldn't talk. I heard the doctor say, we don't know how brain damaged she is, but she's always going to need help. I'd had my own company, so here I am, 53, and hearing this. And I'm a fighter, I'm a survivor, but still it was depressing. But I thought they had kicked me out of heaven. My best friend, who had died the month before, was up there, and I was so happy to see him. My God, he looked so good after being, with leukemia. I thought, holy cow, he looks great. I wonder what's going on. And he eventually just said, "Now, Mary Kay, I'm a Mary Kathleen, you've got too much left to do." And I thought, oh no, they're throwing me out. No, I was yelling, no, I don't want to go back. And that's when I woke and found myself in the bed with a ventilator and unable to move. And I thought, what a pissy joke this is. I have all this stuff to do before I can go back home. Heaven is home. And I can't move. I can't talk. This sucks, basically. So it took a long time before I discovered podcasts, which was about 3 years ago. And now with the help of people like you, Chris, I've been on over 120 of them in the last 3 years. And one of them alone has over 1 million views. So I figure about 2 million people have heard me speak. And I lay in that bed and I thought, I can't even speak to my mom. How am I going to speak to other people? So it's just a wonderful story. It's true. And God is good. And there's a whole lot us humans don't understand.
And that's the thing, a human tendency, especially if you're approaching things scientifically and what have you, if you can't understand it, you tend not to touch it, or you dismiss it as mere fantasy. And I mean, I would say to anyone, if they tried to tell you that you were imagining things, or it was a mere fantasy to you whenever you experienced it, I wouldn't like to be on the receiving end of how you'd respond. Because I must say, I'll tell the listeners here, like I've got Kathy up on video at the moment, even though I don't record video. And Kathy, despite what you went through there, you're looking really well, I must say. So
Thank you.
they've done something, they've done something right. They've been looking after you properly, I would say. But it's such an interesting experience, and do I want to experience that for myself, or do I not? Do I want to run the risk of not coming back? It's nothing. I haven't experienced it yet. I think I might have experienced an out of body experience at one point, but that's by the by. But certainly not a near death experience. And
It changes everything. It just changes everything. When you were saying, what do some people say? One older gentleman, I go to the senior center because it's a place I find that people are thinking about death, But this one guy who's an avowed atheist, he was and after I smoke, he told somebody, she's just smug. She's just smug. She leaves no room for other people's opinion. And I thought, dude, I know, people, I don't have to have faith anymore. I mean, I've been there. I know God's love. I know how wonderful it is on the other side. And that I chose to come down here just like everybody else did. And I've also been told from people who've been in other realms and other places that Earth is the toughest gig. You got to be a really brave soul to come down to this planet and live out a life here. It's a challenge, but we obviously chose it because we wanted a challenge, and we're brave and up to the task. And I have no regrets for coming here. I think I made my hell, which was pretty bad, out of the bad things. Bad, that's a relative term. Out of the harmful, hurtful things that happened to me in my life. I took them to hell and I made them bigger, and I re-experienced those things. And when one of the demon ladies at the very end, kept telling me I wasn't going to get out, and I'd give up and I'd despair and all that. And I kept fighting it. And then finally, the way I got out was to irritate her, so really bad.
just be
And
annoying enough to be released, pretty much.
exactly. I mean, she was in hell, and I was I was not a nice person even for a demon to come up against. But she was not going to get the best of me. But to find yourself in heaven, it was just this blast of love and bliss and joy, and it's just ineffable. You can't explain it. Only somebody who's been there gets that look on their face of there are no words, and how you want to go back so badly, and you just want to, okay, you're here, you didn't finish what you signed up for, and gosh darn it, I'm going to get it done so I can go home. you know no
Unfinished
no
business.
fear of death the next time. Look forward to it.
Well, at the minute, I will have to take your word for it. Like, as like naturally, like most other people, you're a little bit apprehensive. What does await me at the other side, and I'm sure we can
Yeah.
come on to that, a little bit later. But another question has sort of popped into my head at the moment. You said that you sort of give us the chain of events from, when you were sort of put to sleep in a sense, and then it was black, and there was this light that then appeared. You approached that light, and you told us what had happened there, and then that's where the adventure began. And you also mentioned that you toured many different parts of hell as well, in the blurb of your book. What exactly did you see and experience there, in its entirety, if you wish? Um, what was it like to be there?
um like I say, I've told this story so many times that I had to stop. It is always I'm always right there when I tell the story. And I'm 77 years old now. And I just need to pamper myself around that somewhat. If someone really wants the whole blow by blow, they'll have to read the book. I'm not going to do that anymore.
I
I
mean,
can
that's
give you
totally
a couple
understandable
of,
because it's got to be
it's just too,
traumatic.
it's too traumatic. It is. It's a PTSD thing. When I finally thought I've got to go to my therapist and I've got to get some help with this. And she listened to the whole story and she says, I'm sorry, I got to put PTSD on your chart and I don't know how to help you. So it was only by telling my story at one of the IONS meetings that I finally felt accepted, that it was true, that I wasn't a terrible person. About, anywhere from 12 to 20% of people who have near death experiences have the distressing ones, but rarely do we come forward, because here you're up against all these people with their angels and going to universities and traveling the universe, and you got a story to tell that's not like that. So you kind of keep quiet. I will say that on the other side, there's no time. It's an eternal now. So when I found myself in this place, I'll give you the first thing that I saw. I was running from the demon in the dark. I didn't care where I went. I had to get away from that thing. And I stopped because I was afraid I was going to fall, and just waited. And as I did, the lights came up like I was in a movie set or something. And it was shocking. I just stopped. And when I looked, all I could see all around me was just utter destruction of this city. The buildings were toppling over and the windows were blown out, and it was dark and things were on fire. And I was scared. I thought, what the hell? Where am I? What's going on? And I found this big chunk of concrete that was kind of in a V that had fallen over, and I just ducked in there and shivering, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's a war, or somebody's dropped an atomic bomb. And then I heard this like scuttling sound of metal, like a big metal spider, and this shadow went by, and I could just barely see this thing, and I thought, oh my God, it's aliens. That's what's happened, is we've been attacked. And I was just looking around, and during this time I noticed some looked like people in this, because of smoky, because of the fires, and they kind of came out and they were in rags, and they came toward me, and I didn't know what they wanted, and I was afraid, and they just stared, and I said, well, can I like join you? Maybe we can, look for food or water or find a place. And the guy says, no, we are all alone here. And they kind of drifted back away. And so I thought I'd better run for it. I thought I better get inside one of these buildings. Maybe I could find somebody else. So I was running and, hiding, and then I'd run around a corner, and then I tried to crawl up this big piece of concrete, had kind of rebar sticking out of it. And I thought if I could get over the top of that, I could see where to go to. And I started to fall, and I fell backwards, and I thought, oh, this is going to hurt. And when I closed my eyes, it was dark. And I opened my eyes, and the light came up, and I was in another place. Like I say, 15, 20 years later, when I was putting together, where did all of this, hell come from? I remembered very succinctly on a certain date here in Santa Cruz, where I used to live in California, I was in the middle of a 7.0 earthquake while I was downtown in my office, and I got under my desk because everything was shaking so badly. The people were screaming. There was an explosion. Car alarms were going off. I was right downtown, and everything in the office was falling over and crashing. And I thought, well, I'm toast. And it stopped, and I got out from under the desk, and I could look out, and there was smoke, and there was people screaming and running in it. The town had fallen down. So it was a real challenge to get home because everybody was freaked out and the cars were all stopped, and it was a nightmare. So I thought, okay, that's that piece of my life that was just so horrendous that I said, I'll take this to hell. That'll be a good scene. So that's what I was able to track down for all the rest of the places that I was. And again, I hate to sound like I'm trying to sell my book, but it's all in there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you got to leave some of it in there, obviously, because well, one, I can even see, I can hear it in your voice, but we can even see that it is emotional for you, So to have it in the book, and you've already wrote it out, and then that's it, for people to read, and that's a good medium to share with people,
Yeah,
rather
it was.
than
I'm
having to
telling you.
recount it yourself time and time again.
Yeah, and even just writing that book, Chris, I went through boxes and boxes of Kleenex because I had to stop and catch my breath and go take a walk. And not just for the health thing, but for the things in my life. And everybody's got them in their lives that are just awful. And, I look back now and I can say that when I think about how I picked those things, I wanted to learn things. One of the things that happened that was terrible was my first baby I was really looking forward to. She was born with all kinds of terrible birth defects. And I won't go into it here, after what the doctors did to her, she died 2 days later.
Oh, I'm so
And that
sorry
was
to
a
hear that.
real, yeah, thank you. She would have been 55. I still miss her, but I know she's waiting for me. I learned empathy from that. It was, synchronistically, two of my best friends later, within a couple of years, each had babies who died. I could find nobody that would listen to me or help me go through that grief. They just didn't want to. My mom says, that's right, you'll have another child, that kind of thing. It was terrible. I was very alone. So when I could sit with those girls, ladies, in their grief and say, truthfully, I know how you feel, and it's terrible, and you'll never get over it, but you'll learn to live with it, and we will see them later. They were so grateful and so thankful. And so I learned that we all learn valuable lessons from things that happen to us that enable us to be empathetic to other people. And empathy is a very wonderful gift. So if you think about your life and you go back and you think, wow, I never would have survived that. I shouldn't have survived that. But what has happened since then that has allowed you to give comfort to others or to be moved by other people's pain? It's all good. It's just, it comes from a different place. It's spiritual.
And it really, it does sound spiritual, and it sounds definitely more reassuring than what a lot of the established religions offer us. And I wish I was recording video here, because you can see the emotion, and it's so real for you. And I have to. I can't help, but to believe you. It's because it is. It's. You can just see it, and you can hear the emotion in your voice, and it sounds like an incredible experience with like a roller coaster. So many ups and so many downs, and it sounds like you're so reflective on life after that, and that you have a renewed appreciation for life. And I suppose that's what prompted you to write this book. There must have been like a drive or a purpose to write this book, because you clearly said that it was a hard thing to compose. It was a hard thing to write. You had to take so many breaks, get your head showered before you come back. What was that drive that made you write that book, that made you see it through?
We all have, I guess, what I used to call my guardian angel when I was a child. We all have well, they call it other things like your conscience, something, this voice that sometimes says, you shouldn't do that. I don't think this is a good idea. That kind of thing. That's called the voice. That is your spirit guides and all that sort of stuff. When you come back from being in that realm, that voice gets really loud. And that was one of the things that kind of alarmed me when I got back, was that the voice would prompt me to do things like it. The voice prompted me through a series of synchronicities that got me from my little town in Gig Harbor all the way up to Seattle to an IONS meeting when I didn't want to go. I don't like to drive that drive. It was winter and it was raining. I did not want to go. And that voice said, you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. So I went, and then I got up there and my life changed. And that's happened so many times. So after several years, the voice said, you got to write a book, 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 and it won't go away. And so COVID hit. So I'm stuck in the house, right? And I wrote a book. I just sat down and I thought, well, I got nothing else to do. And I just got through it. And I was glad. I did it. I'd been at a conference for IONS people, and there was a lady had a little booth, and she said that she used to be a publisher and she was wanting to publish some books from people in IONS. And every time I'd walk by that booth, I'd like put my hand up so she wouldn't see me and I wouldn't see her, because I kept, I keep hearing, gotta write the book, gotta write the book. So the last day of the conference, I'm going by and she's putting things back in her boxes and stuff. And she stands in front, she walks off and stands in front of me and she says, they say you need to write a book. And I said, who's they? And she said, I'm a medium. The spirits are telling me. And I thought, oh, for crying out loud. Now they're sending reinforcements. So that's why I wrote the book. And it was very interesting because I wrote the book about my whole family going back 2 generations, because I really think that we are a product of our family's previous experiences, and it's in our DNA. And so I did that. And it was so interesting and fun, because sometimes I would be sitting there in front of the computer and I swear I would just sit down and the ideas just came to me, and I was a stenographer. I just kind of wrote it all out. I'd put in extra words or I'd do this and that, but I would wake up twice. I woke up in the middle of the night when I heard my great grandmother's voice. Don't forget to put the part in about such and such, And so I had help from my deceased relatives, angels, spirits. I in a show like this, I can say that. I think you people believe that, but we're all bound together in this one consciousness. We're all one, actually, and we are always helping each other. And it's just been a great experience. I'm so glad I did. And then, like I say, we were really struggling to promote the book, because there's like 10,000 books literally a day in the world that get shoved out there for people. And what's one little person able to do? So again, podcasts. And the first one, this is so cool. I forgot about this. The very first one was from a lady in Australia, actually New Zealand. she contacted me and said, I have a podcast and I want you to, tell your story. And I says, I can't afford to go to New Zealand. She says, no, I've got a podcast. I had to Google that. And then she says, no, we'll do this and do that. And she was the very first person that listened to my story. And then somebody else heard her story, and you know how it snowballs. And then, you found me. So God works in strange ways.
And that tends to be how things like this work. I mean, before I started a podcast, I can relate to you on this sense, where I've had somebody read something that I had wrote for a newspaper back at home, and then they're like, "Can you pop onto my podcast?" And then you talk about the UFOs and the alien sightings, etc., in Northern Ireland, and then another podcast wants you, and then another one, and then the BBC are like, "Can we film you for this, and can we do that for you?" So it is a snowball effect, and is it a case of cause and effect, perhaps, or is it predetermined by synchronicity, that sort of thing?
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
It really does blow the mind, and it all started off like the podcast bit from New Zealand, and then it's went around the world, and it must be comforting in a sense to know that countless people have heard your message, because you've said to me that I'm just this person here, in among 8 billion other people in the world, who's going to want to listen to me, who's going to want to listen to my story, and it must be a great feeling to know that your message is now getting out there, surely.
Oh yeah. That one podcast where they've got over 1 million views, there were 3,500 comments, that people said, thank you for coming on the show. Some of them said you're an idiot, and somebody should
you'll always get those
put you
people.
lock you up in a room. But you just kind of have to let that blow off. They're not the people that you're supposed to talk to on this. You can't, no, not everybody is going to need or want your message, but the ones that do, when I hear that, I don't know, and I hear it a lot. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't run into you. I don't know what I would have done if I hadn't heard your podcast, or if I used to sit on. I had an airplane ministry for a while. It seemed like every time I got on a plane to go to California to see my mom back and forth, I'd have somebody on one side or the other of me that would just start talking. And I don't usually like to talk on airplanes. And they'd say, oh, I just came from my mom's funeral and I'm never going to see her again. And then I go, here we go. So I talked to them the whole 2 hours that we're on the plane. We chit chat, and they get off the plane. 2 of them had me come meet their husbands and said, I don't know what I would have done. What if I hadn't met this lady? I feel so good now. I know I'll see mom again. So yeah, it feels terrific to know that, yes, I was supposed to come back and help people. And now they'll tell people, and you've got a purpose. We've all got a purpose here on earth. And what's life without a purpose? It's boring. It's pointless. So, and we all did choose to come down to do something. So if people are sitting around thinking, all I got to do is watch television, you got to get your purpose taken care of, or I don't know what happens. I would assume you have to come back and do it again. And I don't want to come back, believe me.
I think if you've been here once, you've seen it all. You don't want to.
Well, maybe I've been here 100 times. I don't know, but I'm done. I want to go someplace else.
I wonder, is that a bit like people who've been drinking? My girlfriend is bad for this. If she'll go out with her friends who she hasn't seen in a while, it gets very messy with alcohol and what have you. She's back home, and then the next day she's suffering, and she's like, I'm never drinking again. I mean it this time, I'm never drinking again. It must be the same as like, right, that's it, I'm done with this place. I'm definitely not coming back again this time. But
yeah,
sorry, you have to.
Then you'll have some friends that say, oh, no, just one more time, Kathy.
God, just one more time.
I swear. Yeah, never say never.
So,
yeah.
And prior to the book, and after this experience that you had, obviously it was emotional and it was traumatic, and you felt alone. Was writing this book like a did it have like a liberating effect on you? Was it like chains were broken and a set free feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely. When I held that book in my hand, it was like having a new baby. And I thought, okay, baby, off you go.
Out into the
it's,
world.
it's your turn now. It's up to the book.
I mean that is amazing, and it is. I'm glad you've got the opportunity to do that because it's an outlet, isn't it? You know, at the
Yeah,
same time you're helping other people and you're comforting other people too, and
yeah.
you know, you'd have to be. You know, a heartless person not to be moved by that. You know, you really do seem such a lovely person and a noble person to be able to help people at the same time, inspired by the trauma that you had to go through yourself. And, you know, it's, you could tell that you were a businesswoman at heart. You know, that you've got the drive and, you know, you've got the mental capacity to see things through, despite how hard it might be. So, you know, a massive, massive congratulations on that you saw that through.
Oh,
But we'll go to something a little bit better, not as, you know, dark and traumatic, and we'll talk a little bit about heaven, if you don't mind. Um, if that's okay to talk a little bit
yeah.
about it,
Well,
because
I really wasn't there. Well, I'll tell you what happened. It's very short.
yeah,
I didn't get to stay very long. Also, I think, they sometimes do a mind wipe. I think that's what happened. But anyway, I did. I went from this horrible hell to this incredible bliss. Like I said, it just felt like I was in this, like, I don't know, it was like a snow globe or something that was just filled with sparkly, wonderful love, and you just didn't I didn't want to be anywhere else. I was just so happy and so at home and so complete and just wonderful. And then it started to kind of the turned kind of white a little bit, like it was backing up and coalescing, or starting to make a scene. And I thought, okay, what's going on? And then in front of me, I did see my friend. And the last time I had seen him, of course, he died of leukemia and no hair, and he was all blotchy and horrible. And I thought, oh my God, that's I won't mention his name. And he gets this big grin on his face. And I notice off to the right, I don't know why, I looked over there and there was like this table with this great big huge book open about halfway. And I thought, he was showing me something in that book, and now I don't remember what. Oh, never mind. And so I looked at him and I was so happy. And all of a sudden it hit me. And I said to myself, oh my God, he doesn't know he's dead. And he started laughing. And I thought, wait a minute, I didn't say that out loud. And then I thought, oh, expletive. If he's dead, then I must be dead. And this is obviously heaven. I am so happy. I can't believe it. And he starts coming toward me, and I thought he was going to give me a hug. And I said, come on, we got to go see stuff, man. And he says, no, Mary Kay, you've got too much left to do. Oh, that was just crushing, crushing. And I just stamped my foot and I said, no. And I crossed my arms. And
I can
so
just see that.
then I
Yeah.
found myself walking along this stream. A lot of times people have it was kind of like a timeout. I was so mad. I think it was like a timeout. And I just was walking down this stream, and it was lovely. And I kind of forgot about heaven. I just concentrated on where I was. And I was coming back, and I met a couple ladies. I think, the older ladies, they along the stream, there were three of them. They gave me things that were for a wedding, like I don't know, it was like a trousseau gown and a little quilt, and then a note to give to the man that I had been dating that saved my life, that said that we needed to get married. We have to get married. And so, and then I woke up, and I couldn't move. And there was people milling around, and I thought, crap, I'm back in hell. And then it turned out to be my family. And I thought, what has been going on? I mean, what's going on? I can't move. I can't talk. And then they came over and they're all so happy to see me, of course. And we almost lost you. And my mother says, we had a prayer circle that went around the world, Kathy. Everybody was praying for this, 3 weeks I was in the coma, and we brought you back. And I thought, oh, if I could get my hands on that woman, I'd shake her. You terrible woman. You brought me back and you're happy. I was really glad I couldn't talk, because I would have been a little rude, I'm afraid. But that's about all. All I know is that when I talk to other people that have had the experience, they go, they know. You can't explain it to somebody how wonderful and how complete, and it's just home. It's where we belong. And then you see this world for the play that it is. I've heard this in your podcast and other
Yeah.
people. This is not real. This is something we've all made up. And I don't know. I don't know all the specifics, but I just know that I'm going to do my best and get the heck out of here and go back home. And congratulations on your podcast and what you're doing. I
Oh,
think
thank
it's
you.
wonderful. I mean, part of me is, I'm Mary Kathleen McDaniel. I've got a little Irish in me. And I was telling you earlier that I got to, for my birthday last year, I wanted to go someplace special. And I always wanted to go to Ireland. I was the
Yes, you
only one
did.
my family
Yes.
hadn't been. And so we spent 3 weeks there and toured the whole thing. And we had beautiful weather the whole time. They said it was a miracle that they had. I thought, aha, I brought the miracle. and and it was just glorious. I loved it. I felt home there. It was like my roots, and I love the Irish people, and there's a lot of English in me too, DNA wise, so I could understand the Northern Ireland and the rest of that. It was a
It's a very
glorious
complex
experience.
thing as well, isn't it?
I-
Yeah.
oh, it is. And that's just part of being on Earth. We've all chosen to have challenges. And if we can all, when I got back, I was still so scared of going back to hell. I asked God, I said, look, just give me something positive that I can do every day that's simple, so I don't screw up and end up in a bad place again. And over a series of weeks, it came back, Kathy, be loving and kind, merciful and forgiving, encouraging, grateful, non-judgmental, and useful. That's all you got to know. So that's what I tell people. If nothing else, you just be loving and kind. Every day you get up, today I'm going to be loving and kind no matter what kind of clown I run into at the store or whatever. I'm going to be loving and kind. And that's why I feel joyful all the time. I don't get confused anymore. I just try and be loving and kind.
I mean, it's a simple, to the point message, and it shouldn't be hard. But for some people, doing as simple as being kind or non-judgmental, it's easier said than done for some people. But I hope that your message certainly tries, or at least inspires people to at least try. And certainly, your message has inspired me this evening. I really got, honestly say, hands down. It is a fascinating account. I could sit and listen to you for hours. Honestly, I could just listen to you, just tell me all about your experiences, etc. It's a wonderful thing, and we're approaching an hour now.
Okay.
And so I don't mind if it strays over a little bit. That's by the by. But if I have to ask a final question, and if more questions arise afterwards, then so be it. I don't mind. I don't care how long I've got you here, as long as you don't have anything else throughout the day. But if I have to ask a final question, after going through, what you have, and ultimately visited hell, heaven, encountered the love of God. Do you feel that you understand the meaning of life now, or is there a meaning to life? And if so, what is it in your own words?
Well, I think simply that I chose to come down here, and I'm going to honor that and do the best I can, and then I get to go home. And I figure in my mind, I tell people this kind of as a joke, but all my soulmates, when we get back home, I'll be in the bar. There'll be free hors d'oeuvres, and we can sit around and just laugh about everything that happened to us and how lucky we were that we found each other, and where are we going to go next time.
I mean, that sounds good. A few drinks, maybe out round a campfire, just telling stories of what our
Yeah,
encounters were like on
yeah,
Earth is a great way to think about it.
yeah.
Do you know, I really do hope that people who've listened to this have been uh, inspired. I certainly have been, and I really, really want to get my hands on the book, which I will be doing that tonight. I will download it, and that'll be something for me to read after a book I'm currently reading now. I had downloaded another book to read immediately after, but I think this one takes precedence because
Oh, good.
I want to
Let me
know
know.
more.
Let me know what you think when you get through
Oh,
with
I
it.
will
Okay.
do, honestly. And it's piqued my curiosity. I just want to know just that little bit more and see. Kathy, thank you so much for being on the show this evening. It was moving, and it was great to see you talk about it and listen to you talk about it. For anyone who is curious, where can they find you, and where can they best get your book?
Amazon's the simplest place. It's a Kindle and a Audible and book and all that stuff for anybody. So the name of the book is Misfit in Hell to Heaven Expat, and it's explained in there why I called it that. And then my website address is just www and the name of the book.com, and there's a place there where you can leave me a message, and if you got a question or something, and I'll get back to you.
Kathy, all the way from Washington State in the United States, thank you so much for being on the show. There's no doubt that you've touched people who were listening to this and hopefully reassured them as well. It's certainly an awe-inspiring account of your experience, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening or afternoon, and I hope to speak to you soon.
Okay, thanks so much, Chris.
Thank
Bye.
you for being on the show. Kathy McDaniel talking to me about her near-death experience. Now, I don't know what it is, but speaking to her leaves you in a feel-good mood for the rest of the day. What an interesting account of her experience. If you're listening, Kathy, thanks again for sharing it with me in the Close Encounters podcast, because I really did enjoy recording that one. It was amazing. Thank you. And just by the way, I've purchased her book, and I've only just started reading it, to be fair, after finishing another a couple of days ago, but I must say I'm enjoying the read so far. I've started today reading it, actually, on my commute between Belfast and Heathrow airports, and I haven't even got to the Heaven and Hell account yet, but her history is it's engrossing. It really is engrossing, and I really can't wait to get to the meaty part where she gets to Heaven and Hell. Well, while Kathy concludes Season 1 by being our 10th guest, we will go straight into Season 2 without a break next week. I mean, let's face it, we've already had a long enough break, haven't we? But kicking off Season 2, who better to have than my good friend from back at home, Fra MacDonald, the founder of Shadowhunters Northern Ireland, where he will talk to me about some of his encounters from his previous investigations, including the Crumlin Road Prison and Conway Mill. Be sure to check in for that one. And also, on Friday just gone, I attended his Elementum investigation, which you will hear about in the next episode. You have been listening to the Close Encounters podcast with me, Chris McMurray. And until next episode, have a good week.